Everybody, it's Snowman your Art Sherpa. Today we are going to be doing watercolor step by step. I am going to be teaching you how you can create for yourself this adorable floral watercolor snowman. I so enjoyed the ghosts from Halloween. I was like, we just need to put some snowmen and some flowers too. This is too much fun. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hello.
He helps bring you these step-by-step lessons by, one, making me tiny and getting me out of the way so you can see the lesson, pointing the cameras at what I'm teaching, reading comments during the live stream. Now, I do these live, and so I'm going to let you know right now, you're going to be following along with me, but the thing you and I need to realize, even against our own reference, is that we're not Xerox machines. So even when you're painting with me, you need to do this. I'm going to show you the techniques. I'm going to show you the why. I'm going to explain everything clearly. You're going to be able to duplicate it. And at the end, we're both going to have some snowmen and some flowers. Ours might look a little bit different from each other, but that's because we're not exactly the same people in the exact same space and time. I don't even paint everything exactly the same every time I paint it. It's just, I'm a human being. You're a human being. We have a little bit of variance, and that's kind of awesome because then we know that we are human.
Yeah.
And then we have variants. And so I love those differences. Those are the best things. Now, I am going to teach you how to draw the snowman. I am going to break down all of the techniques. That said, there is in the description, and I put it in the comments earlier, a traceable that you could transfer on your paper and follow. Hey, everybody. I still think it's Cinnamon Goody, your Art Sherpa. And I'm hoping that this is us continuing the stream. So I'm going to give it about 30 seconds to see if it is. And if it's continuing, that's fantastic. If not, I think this is confusing me. I don't know if we need to start over.
I think we're back.
Are we back?
We're back.
Okay.
It has somehow...
It's still showing is not working on my end.
2 minutes and 41 seconds is where it thinks we are at in the stream. Weirdly enough.
Oh, well, we'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
Yay! Technology, my favorite. Thank you, Grace. I'm grateful to be back. All right, we're going to go over materials. Materials for the class. I'm going to really be breaking this down. You guys are going to love it. So, again, you've got a traceable. I don't see the materials thing yet.
Huh. Well.
Okay. So, this is a 9x12 watercolor block. Okay. So, all the pages are glued together with the exception of a little key that is open so that you can pull the pages off. This particular one I really like. I like Fabriano. Love it very much. It's like 750 years old. The company has been making paper in Italy for 750 years. They are green. They are experts. They are just incredible. They invented sizing and all those things in paper. It's so fascinating reading anything about them, but the paper itself is amazing. It's acid free. It holds up really well. I love these blocks, and blocks are more costly, but I like these blocks are less costly of the blocks, and I love their quality so much. So the thing that you want, right? You can get blocks from Strathmore, you can get blocks from Canson, you can get blocks from Arches. I do recommend for beginners a block of watercolor paper. It helps you with the wiggling and warping of your paper and lets you re-stretch it because it'll stretch it as it dries so you can frame it easier and you don't have to know how to stretch paper. It's fantastic. Takes a whole step out of your life. Makes it a lot easier. 9x12, 300 GM or 140 pounds. That when you see the paper between 140 and 300 pounds, those are the weights for watercolor paper that I like. 140 and up. You can get away with 110, but I like 140. This is cold press paper. It means it's bumpy. All right, let me set that there. Now, on the watercolor. So this comes from tubes, and honestly, I squeeze out way more paint than I need so you can see it. It takes very little watercolor to go a long, 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 long way. And even when it dries, it reactivates. This tube of watercolor is a mega tube of watercolor. I don't even know when I'm going to get to the end of it. Most of them will be about that size, and that equates to your regular tubes in acrylic. It goes a long way. Actually, may even go longer than that tube of white. It's very hard to explain how far it goes. And again, even when it's dry, you can reactivate it so you don't throw out your palette. You keep your paint. You use it, use it, use it, use it, use it. I am going to be using the Raphael Imitation Kolinsky and Soft Aqua Soft. Is this the, like, make sure Imitation Kolinsky. I've got a lot of Imitation Kolinsky. Why do I have Imitation Kolinsky in my nest? There's the Soft Aqua. The reason I do this is if you have a Kolinsky brush, there's nothing wrong with that. I just don't want to continue to make Kolinsky brushes, and it's also apparently immoral, so they don't do it anymore. And they're $500. So many reasons why I don't have one. This, pretty much the exact same thing, and it's synthetic, and I love it, which is the Imitation Kolinsky by Raphael. It's a new thing. The Soft Aqua I also love from them. It's Imitation Squirrel. So when they say imitation, they mean it's just tack on. It's just a synthetic. So I love these. I will be using this style of brush throughout, probably mostly a synthetic. You do use natural in watercolor, and that's totally fine. If you are using natural, you'll want to get your brush wet now, actually. So see this here, see how this brush is super fluffy? I have to, before I use it, I have to get it wet. Because the water needs to soak into the hair for the brush to perform correctly. So if you have a natural hair brush, squirrel or something, it will work better after it's been wet a little while than when it's newly out of the paint thing and it's dry. It's kind of like your actual hair. So that's something you might not know and you could run into as a beginner. Okay, I've got ultramarine blue, phthalo blue. I have primary yellow. This is sort of like a cad yellow medium or just a main yellow. It's a Hansa yellow, so anything in there is fine. I have phthalo green, burnt umber. I have quinacridone magenta, and I have Sennelier orange, which is basically pyrrole orange or cad orange. Any of those will work. Close enough colors will work because this is watercolor. All right, now let's practice. I'm gonna show you the thing on how to draw the snowman. I am gonna teach you how to draw the snowman, and then you are going to put it on here either very lightly, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that, or with your transfer method with your tracing paper.
Now, is this going to be our step one, or is this pre-step?
This is a step one. This is me teaching everybody how to draw it, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it in black pen.
All right.
Okay? So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the center of my head, and I'm going to make a little circle. Now here at the bottom, I'll go ahead and do a little dot so you can see. Solid lines are continuous, and dots will be in the sketching process. I might not press down hard on that line. Right? In the center of my head, curving upward and to the left, I'm going to add my carrot. Once I know where my carrot is, I can make a little smile line on each side that is kind of like eyes that are closed. But this time I'm going to come up and add the black of the eye. I'm going to make a little smile pattern so I know where to put that with my paint. Once I have that in, I can come up here and start putting in the hat. Now here, about the midway point of the face, I am going to bring a little ellipse around and then add the hat band. And again, you guys have this traceable. I just want you to know how to draw it. Now, I'm going to make a second little ball. I don't want to make it too wide because it has to feel like, you know, he's standing in the flowers. And I'm going to make two little curved lines over the edge. Down here. Twist, twist. I'm going to join these two lines right here. Flare it out. And I'm going to start adding my twist. And you can see how creating that dimensionality is what kind of creates the twist in the scarf. Right? And so, and then our flowers, we're going to actually kind of do with paint, but you might want to do them with the traceable, are generally a circle with a radial weird thing to think. I like these because they have a bit of a heart into them. The petals look like hearts. All right, now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about line. If you can be right up here as close as you can get, John. So I'll talk to you a lot about how lightly I want you to put in your traceable or to sketch in said snowman. This is an HB pencil. It's a good HB pencil, and it's a watercolor pencil, which I do really like because it will vanish into the sketch, which is sort of fun. But I'll show you what I mean by that. I'm going to begin by pressing very hard. Can you see how dark that is? So the issue with your pencil lines, especially into watercolor paper with the sizing and the strong cotton formulation, is that this is very hard to remove. And to remove it, you have to damage the paper, and then the watercolor won't go over it nicely anymore. So I'm going to keep lightening up, lightening up, lightening up, lightening up, lightening up my pencil. Where I need to draw is in the area where I can still see it. You guys can't see it, but I can barely see it. That's how heavy my pencil line marks are when I'm sketching in watercolor and I'm not doing line and wash. Okay? So practice with your tracing paper. You're going to transfer over a little bit lighter, right? Or when you're sketching, you're going to practice sketching at the level where how light can I make it and still see it? Right? The other thing is I use a gummy eraser, and you'll see what I mean here. Even if I go to touch it, it does pick up quite a lot, but see, it can't pick up this as well. It can really remove that, even with a touch. The reason that's important is I haven't damaged the sizing to my paper if I'm erasing. The surface is not harmed. There's the gummy eraser with the graphite. Just work it in, and it goes away. Store it on my desk up top. So sometimes those are called kneadable erasers. Sometimes they're part of them called clay erasers. I call them gummy erasers, gum erasers. Faber-Castell does one. That's why that's red and blue, because I mixed up two of them together. Kneadable is the other one. A lot of people like to call them kneadable erasers. And they're usually gray. They're not usually fun colors. Faber-Castell makes the fun color one. Red, yellow, and blue. Super fun.
Pretty neat.
All right. That's how you draw a snowman.
That's the snowman drawing.
That's a snowman drawing. Okay.
Now we're on to the next step.
Next step, next step, next step.
All right.
Okay. Now, in this next step, in step 2, you will create a picture plane. That means the area in which your snowman exists, and then the outside of that is the area that your framer or you get to work with to hang and frame the work. I have made an inside measurement of a 7-inch wide, 8-inch high square. I used my T-square to measure it out, so I just kind of came in. It doesn't need to be this exact measurement. Now, I know you're new and it feels like everything needs to be exact. You need to give yourself at least an inch around the outside of the paper. 1, to do testing, and 2, to leave room for framing. I like to give myself ample so I can really practice techniques and things, and then I can pull it all together during the framing process. So I measured that out using my T-square. 7 across, which I guess is about 20, how many centimeters is that? That is, oh gosh, about 18 centimeters
There, 18.
and then 20 centimeters. Okay, so that's in there. Once I have that done, what I do to hold that space, I'll take low-tack tape or painter's tape and I paint it all out. Now you can see I've already done some color swatching up here just to make sure I'm happy with the color palette. I always like to test everything out. And that's the other reason that having a little extra paper is nice on the outside, because if I'm like, oh, I want to see how that flower technique works out, I can come down here, I can come over, you know, to the top and do a little experimentation. Even if I do loose sheet, I will do a double tape. I'd tape the outer edge on the stretch and then tape this inner space. So see how this gives me a picture plane inside here. I arbitrarily picked 7x8. Just fit everything well.
It just worked. You okay?
It just worked. I was having a little... Now we're going to do an exterior wash. Right now at this stage in step 2, what I'd like you to do is to either sketch in your snowman very lightly, so lightly you can't see it, or use the traceable at this stage and put a very light line drawing. Now John's going to get up zoom and he's going to zoom in on this so you can see how light it is. There's no point in watching me for 10 minutes lightly draw, because you just saw me draw in black lines, but I did exactly what you saw me do on the other paper there. And well, but it's, you want them to see how.
Yeah, I just turned it down so you can see, but it's really light.
It's so light.
It's see, normally that's
barely John can see it by
over
eye.
the top. You can barely see it.
And I actually would even lighten it some.
And it's just so light. And yeah,
I can still see it. I'm the one that matters.
Yeah, and I can adjust and you can barely see it there, but like I can adjust my camera to ways that human eyes can't see. So
yeah,
it's sort of unfair.
It's an unfair thing.
But
now,
that's
I'm gonna use big brush. Not that big a brush. Oh, have you ever had it where the tops were like down so deep on a brush that you were like, oh goodness. All right, I'm gonna just use this number 14 soft aqua brush. I'm going to get it wet. This is another step, John. We're done with 2. We're moving on to 3. Okay.
I misunderstood.
2 is tape and transfer on. 3 is start to paint. So I'm going to get my 14. I did not make myself clear. It was me, not you. I'm going to get clear water. And I have transferred on. There's a flower here, and a couple flowers here, and then my snowman. And I'm going to paint outside of my snowman very, very carefully
outside
with
of the space.
Water.
Yeah, outside of the space that you want.
Yeah, between the subject matter and the tape. But I'm not going to paint the flowers, and I'm just using water. I don't want this to be so wet that fish could swim in it. And another thing to know is that I have a slight angle on my pad right now. The reason being is that's how the camera sees everything super well. I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see everything super well. See how I'm just painting with water? Isn't that strange? Now I'm going to show you the technique. All right. This half is mildly wet. I'm going to take a little bit of my phthalo blue onto my brush, getting water in there. And I'm going to loosely, and loose means that I'm moving and wiggling my brush around kind of in an unstructured way. And I've got a wet application of paint. You can see where gravity is impacting me. And again, that's because my image is on an angle, on a drafting table. These are important things for you to understand. Notice that I just wiggle the brush around and I don't work over areas again heavily. Now, here I'm going to be very, 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 very kind of light and avoidy. So now my pigment load has lightened up quite a lot, hasn't it? And I'm very carefully going around the objects with my brush. And what you're going to notice very quickly is that watercolor paint goes where the water is. So if the paper is wet, for sure, the paint can travel there. The other thing is that gravity is impactful. And now I'm going to take a little bit. This is just a paper towel. And along the snowman, I'm going to very carefully sort of tap away a cloud-like effect. So it's much darker up here and is out there. You can see the paint on the paper.
Now, was that a sable hairbrush?
No.
It was not, huh?
It is not sable, but it does look it, doesn't it?
It's sable-ish.
It is the soft aqua Petit Gris imitation squirrel from Raphael. They started releasing these imitation squirrel brushes, and they just dropped a Kolinsky that is honestly quite good. I am adding a little water right there. And so these are animals that the brushes could be made from. They don't ever go and they don't have like a rendering plant for animals for the art industry. They it's definitely a byproduct of regular human activity. One, because we're just not a big enough industry to support it. Like, we could not support the raising of a whole pig. I'm telling you right now. Pigs are expensive to raise. They are. So you have to be in the food industry. It's just that the art companies are able to go to the places that do the stuff with the animals and make arrangements to like collect boar bristles or squirrel hair or those things. All right. Now I'm going to come here. Now, interesting thing about watercolor paint, you might be like, but where's the white paint? Because every other time you painted, there's white paint. But here in watercolor, where we're doing this wet into wet technique, that's what it's called. Right? Notice that I'm wiggling my brush around. And I'm going to show you something I haven't thought to show anybody, but might help you. Just going around my little pom-pom. Keeping it light. Now, watercolor does have color shift like acrylic, but it shifts lighter, not darker. Notice that I can piece out little bits, and that helps my little cloudy effect. But here's the thing I want to show you. Okay, I've got watercolor paper here that is not wet. When I'm putting out the blue, you'll notice that I come in with a fairly wet brush. We definitely only maybe 1-2 drops off the side. I load it up. And I just want you to see the brush stroke so you can see how wet that is. Now, when I'm working wet into wet, I do little motions like this. Doesn't seem like it would do a lot, does it? But I'm pre-wet out this paper. Yeah, some of this will reactivate just because watercolor is always good. I'm going to do the exact same motions. See how that's very different? Pre-wet the paper, dry paper, same motions. See, and then I can even work out some of this lighter paint. And if I take a paper towel right now, and John will get close so you can see this, I can lift up quite a lot of color, adding another layer that's very cloud-like and playful. Yeah. So that's how that works. That's why that works. That might be really weird. If you've always painted acrylic and you saw that for the first time, you might be like, what is going on? Another thing that if you've never painted this way, see that right there?
That little poof.
That poof. That is the paper warping from the water. Now what will happen, it will warp a little bit, not as bad as a loose sheet. It'll just go crazy. It'll warp a little bit. It'll pocket. It'll pup. I can paint around it. Doesn't throw me off too much. But as it dries, it will stretch and flatten back out. That's why we do the Fabriano block. I don't ever bug you about stuff unless it's worth your time and effort, and this one is definitely worth your time and effort. I am generally disinclined to use a hair dryer when doing watercolor. But in this case, I will, because we have a class and you guys need to be able to go onto your lives, and watching my paper sit here for 20 minutes, probably not your favorite thing. Do this with me once and then do it again, and really do things like, at this point in the painting, let your paper settle for 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
See where it ends up. You're going to want to make sure you have a light value here, here, and here.
Just got to thoroughly dry that over there, and that makes sure it comes back. So, Jules, you asked, do we have our brush cleaner back in stock yet? No. We will be getting that back in stock, but we have really just been sort of resetting our lives and getting the e-commerce store back in place. Oh, hold on just a second there, Cinnamon. I'm going to let everybody come back from the commercial break there for a second.
Oh, yeah, commercial.
So what we do is we hit the commercial button during drawing times, because it resets YouTube's timer to wait a minimum amount of time before showing another one. Now, it doesn't always work in all platforms in all ways, but for the most part, we found that it does help keep the commercials off the time of teaching. So we're on to step 4.
Step 4, couldn't ask for more. I'm going to do my number 6 Raphael imitation Klinsky round. And that's because this gives me such a nice point. And I think I'm going to come up to my hat. I realized there was a color I forgot to put out. Did you know that? I didn't know that. I'm seeing it right now. Payne's gray or black. We've had a bit of an exciting morning. We had a big wrestling match last night, and then that went really exciting. And then all the school drama this morning, I think we're just like barely here. You know what I mean?
Well, then that goes to, and we'll talk a little bit more about, like, we're going to be doing, we got a lot more coming here this fall, the little brush videos, more stuff in our store. We've just been really getting our feet back underneath us. That's all.
Completely. It's such a true story. All right, now I'm going to come here and take a little bit of my ultramarine blue, and I'm going to just load it onto my brush. I'm going to do an interesting thing here. I'm going to come on the inside of my hat. I'm not going to color the brim. All right. Now I'm going to add a little more water to my brush. And just work all of that in. A trick that I can do is to lift a little paint out of the center even, or leave a little white. And come in and add more watercolor on these edges. So this is more pigment. See how I'm coming in? I come in from the outside. I don't lift this up like it's acrylic paint. We don't paint it like acrylic. We don't do thick applications like this. That is 10 paintings. So you don't do that. You come in and you have a wet brush. You come in and you wet out the paint in the way that I tell you never to do with acrylic. And bring it in. You can see how the hat's a little brighter in that center.
It's a little jaunty hat.
Little jaunty hat. Now I'm going to bring the brim around.
A jaunty alouette.
Grab a little bit of my Payne's gray. Work those in from the corners. Then I'll rinse out. You heard that vigorous little rinse out. I'll grab a little more blue. And then if I rinse out, wipe my brush off on a paper towel so the brush is dry. Look at this. I can come vacuum back up some paint. So wipe. See how that has almost a vacuum capacity? and a blending capacity. It's just, these are weird little things that when you've been painting with this medium, playing with it, you'll be like, oh wait, this is super fun. Which it is, super fun. Now I'm going to come in and grab a little bit of my black on the toe of this brush. Wiggly, wiggly, wiggly. Let's call this a new step. Watercolor is one of those things where you could technically, I suppose, paint it all in one step because you just go, go, go. Now here's a little trick. I'm going to make a little line, and then I'm going to watch my lean. Make another little line.
Those little eyes.
And I'm going to leave a little bit of a round, unpainted bit of white paper. Do you see what I'm doing there? What happens if I can't get this? I just come back with acrylic paint, put a white dot there. So we don't worry about this stuff. We just, got a little exaggerated there with my expression, but I don't mind. I'm going to continue on. Below where my carrot is, I'm going to add a little dot. A little bit of a smile starting up. Gonna rinse out. Now, if my hat is dry, I can come from this outside. And from this outside edge, I can touch in. And I'm letting it sort of blend and bleed across here, but I can still come across with a dry brush after wiping it off on a paper towel and curl that. So now we're still getting that delicate little watercolor effect that is just, it's what makes it so fun, right? Now I am going to grab a little bit of my yellow and bring it over to where my orange is. All right. And I'm going to make a little mark. These are like little marks going up the carrot. It will be carrot highlight later. You don't even know. All right, let's call that a step. And while that's having a rest, I want to take a little bit of my quinacridone and a little bit of my ultramarine blue, and I'm going to make a burgundy color. So it's not going to be purple. It's still going to read as like a Merlot or a red. And I can come up here and I can always test it against my sheet of paper, right? Now, once I have that, I'm going to wet it out, which means I'm adding water to the mix till it's quite wet. So I have that there. I'm going to come in and take a little bit of our green, our burnt umber, and our yellow. I'm going to come right here with a dot. I can come in and get a little more yellow. And then if I rinse out and dry off my brush, I can pick up some paint. I always like doing that. And then you can even come in and grab a little bit of the brown and green and a little dimensionality on that outside edge. You can see I can very easily do a light and dark paint, and then with wiping off, I've got a towel in my lap and I'm wiping my brush out like this, squeezing all the water out, because then it becomes a vacuum, which is a sort of interesting space to be in. All right, so the mix over here is phthalo green, our primary yellow, and a little burnt umber. It's not that different from the green gold we mix all the time. The other way we could get here is, believe it or not, our yellow and our phthalo blue, or our yellow and our ultramarine blue will also give us a green gold. So if I come here, I can show you that. Ultramarine blue and our yellow will also give you a very good green gold. Yeah, I had too much water on my brush, so what I do is I wipe it on the paper towel and I'll pick it up. And I will do the same here. And then I might get a little yellow. Kind of put it at the top of my flowers. See how little paint I'm getting? You can see what I mean? Like, this is going to last a minute. Like, I'm going to have to sit after and use up this paint doing a bunch of winter painting. So.
Did you see there, Laura?
No, I didn't.
Do you ever use watercolor pencils?
I do. Oh my gosh. And I love the Derwent. I love Crawdash. Like, love them. There's so many that I really, really like. Oh, I do. I haven't done them, on my channel. I think I think what happened when I first got on YouTube, I asked myself, is this question already being answered by somebody really, really well? And then didn't try to answer that question. So I didn't do every medium I could do. I was like, oh, well, I'll just come in and teach acrylic. I'm adding my dark green down here at the bottom of these little flowers. They've dried for a second while I monologue like a villain, and that has worked out in my advantage, and you can see that there. Look at those go. They are wonderful. Now, while I'm having this thought, I am going to take out a little bit of my ultramarine blue and my quin magenta, and I'm going to make some distinctive purples, and I'm going to know they're purple because I'm going to come up here and be like, oh, you purple. All right. I'm going to get a little of that purple on my brush. I'm going to come up right here on my surface. Make a little dot, another little dot. See how small those dots are? They're so small. John, can we get close on our dots?
We absolutely can. You were just jumping around earlier, so I was.
No, I figured. See how we're doing? Now I've added a little more water, and that's just so that I can make some of these little flowers lighter. As I come down, they become bigger. Now I'm going to come right here. Maybe make a large hollyhock facing me, and that is about creating the overall shape of the flower. And I've left an opening for a little face. And come here. Now, if we go up to the top, I think you guys are seeing this. I want to do this a few more times. Not that we had this many open on the original, but
yeah, we can see them. They look cool.
I just feel like we should practice doing these. Now, I will make these little open flowers and then half opens as I come up into the stalk.
For those peoples at home who have not painted these, they could certainly practice this on a scratch sheet.
I think I would recommend practicing this on a scratch sheet. And I have whole lessons just about spike flowers. So I'm going to come here and again do these little tiny dots. And then as I come down, it gets bigger. See, stroke, 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 boom. Just doing a few there and there. Isn't that lovely? I think those are lovely. Now I can always come in and grab a little more blue and a little more magenta together, making a very dark purple. So dark purple. If I want it to be dark purple, it has more blue in it. And I can come in and touch the insides of some of these little flowers. Make sure we have some color dimensionality. Coming over here. Now let's come down to this side. Let's go down into the lower right, John? I think I lost my puffy. Oh, then I didn't lose my puffy.
This is a Sony. It is puffyless. It has an integrated puffy in its sleek and stylish tip.
I'm on the outer edge out here, guys, where the pigment load is lower. And I'm just making these little dots. The overall thing is, and it's like sometimes I will just fill up a whole page with these little flowers. You're like, how do you know how to paint those flowers? Oh, I bet. So watercolorists do, just as a community, I feel like, this is my opinion of observations for decades, but I haven't interviewed every single person in the world. So, or whatever you want to give it that. But having watched artists for decades, my feeling is that the watercolor artists are significantly more likely to study a skill, to fill pages and pages and pages of painting leaves or cactuses or potted plants or fruit or anything. Just skill, 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 skill. They call them elements and they paint them. It's like swatching. Makes a big difference for outcome. I just put out more ultramarine blue, and I did that just so that the flowers could be a little cooler down low. Sometimes I will just offload a little bit of my paint. The bigger ones that you can kind of even see that they have faces are down here. I think I've gotten a little more playful. That's okay. Sometimes it'll happen. I'll start a design and then as I'm thinking it out the second or third time, sometimes I'm like, there's more fun here to be had. And that's the other reason why I think it's important to know that, we're not copy machines. Now on these, I'm going to come in with my dark green. I'm going to get a little of my yellow and green gold together. And on some of them, add a little bit of that. There we go. Just a little bit of that through there. It's a nice touch. All right, let's call that a step. Now that my orange has dried so much on my nose, I'm going to come in with a little bit of yellow and orange. So a little more orange than before. And I'm going to very carefully come on the outside of the carrot at the top. And at the bottom. And then super carefully paint in, but not remove my yellow. I think I could have even gone lighter than I did this time. So I'm going to take a little bit of my quinacridone and my orange. Come to the back and under. Rinse out. And look, I can even come back and pick up some paint. It's kind of fun. So very good. That little bit up there. Rinse, 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 rinse. Okay. Let's grab some yellow. Just yellow. And I mean, and water.
Your little water dish there isn't anything more complicated than a 3-hole cup thing, right?
It's a makeup brush cup from Amazon.
It's brush organizer.
Like $2, $4, maybe $4 now, $9. I don't know. The 99-cent nail polish is now $8, so I don't know what anything costs.
So it's $35.95.
That's not You know what? Let's stop calling things their words. Let's stop calling it inflation and just call it gouging. Let's say it right to Bezos's face when we see him at restaurants. But gouging. It's gouging. It's gouging. That's what it is. If you raise the cost above the cost of your goods, so like this is how you know it's gouging. If you're just charging a price to see if people will pay it, not because that somehow reflects a responsible profit margin for you and your business to be able to care for yourself and in your employees and continue to be a healthy economic contributor to your sector, you might be gouging. All right, so I've added a lot of water, and I've done that because I want this color to be the babiest, yellowest light color. And the only way to get there is to have a very light pigment load. I painted the pink flower yellow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go around and paint the whole thing yellow.
Okay. I think it'll be an okay flower.
No, wait. I got to fix for it, though.
Oh, you do?
I think so. So I painted the whole thing yellow. I have made a mistake, officially. Like, officially, this is a mistake from my original plan. Not really a problem. Normally, I would just go, It's yellow now. But...
Whoa.
Okay, now, it had a little yellow on it. But I took it up, and if I come over here to my pink color, I'm going to get just a little bit on there. I'll come back and do it with the pink, and you'll notice I'm unharmed. Did not mean to do the yellow, but see, I don't lose it when things go wrong. I just fix it. There we go. That wasn't so bad.
No, not bad at all.
Not bad at all. Now I'm going to grab a little bit of my orange and maybe some more yellow. Start to paint up a few of the little twists. It's a twist. Adding a little bit of that orange there, and then coming here. Twist, twist. And then some little puffs. And you see how... now see where that water is collecting? That is not what normally happens. Normally, it is resting a little more where it's placed. But because I'm on an angle, I do have a little bit of gravitational water collection, which does pull my pigment. Put a little more orange on my brush, as you do. Notice that I'm just coloring the inside edge line. Isn't that beautiful how it blooms and blends out? Here, I'll come all the way around. Darker color right there. Oh, I like that. There we go. Just something fun. Rinse my brush out thoroughly. All right. Now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to grab a little bit of my yellow and my green. Shall we call it a new step?
I think we could call this a step 8.
Would be great.
And
So
Jules,
I'm going to make a nice light little line.
Jules, we are really not set up for Zelle donations, but I tell you what, if you email support@theartsherpa.com, we might be able to figure that out for you. Not, no, we don't have a public way of doing that, but I'm sure if you.
That's a good idea, though.
Yeah, it's like you'd have to email support, and then I'm sure we could figure that out, and we'll.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean. No, don't give us help. We don't want help. Of course, thank you guys. We really do need it and we love it.
We appreciate it and we're grateful and you make John's life so much easier.
Yeah. So, I mean, I sometimes we get
we're just putting a little bit of leaves out here, just trying to build up our
we're just naturally bashful about asking or putting any kind of pressure on folks to support us because we do, while we really do need and love and value your support
so much,
it is not a condition of us being here for you. This is what we want to do because we want to do it and we love it and we want this out there in the universe. So
just adding a little more yellow to the center.
Yeah.
Well, John explains our support philosophy.
Well, it's just I don't know. It's kind of how we live.
And you can see how that sort of lightens out. And if I want to come in and put a little darkness at the darkness.
One of the best bands.
Yeah, I can always add that. I exaggerated that so you could see it. But you can do any color. And then you come in with a damp brush and you can even work it in. And get these beautiful little delicate moments for yourself. Now, while my water is still clean, I'm going to get a little of my clean water. And I think I'm going to come in from the side. Paint around this flower carefully. And come down maybe through here. This is just water, friends. Just water. And I don't want it to go down too far, so I will use my paper towel to grab that last little bit of it. The reason I'm not touching the orange or any of the colors with my water is I don't necessarily want them to bloom into where we're going. Now I'm going to take a little bit of my phthalo and ultramarine blue together. Come around the side of my snowman. Rinse out a little bit. And I kind of pull down with my brush. If you can see, I'll grab a little. Just a little bit of light. Oh my goodness, such light blue through here. The reason I am like telling you and making a point of you knowing that and all of that is because the only way to do the negative space flowers is to have a little bit of light blue. And then I can even break up some space with my paper towel. So that worked out really, really well. Rinse out a little bit. Back into my greens. I like to do implied shapes of things. So I don't necessarily worry about connecting stems or explaining every position of everything. Oh, I added some little lines there, though. That was fun. Put some here and there. I like to just... Now maybe we'll get a little of our halo, which is so fun. Making a diamond shape to imply a leaf. And I'm going to pull up some because I just want it lighter in the center. I don't want it to be all one green. I wanted some dimensionality. Back into my yellow. Yeah, I think I'm going to get a little of my blue here and my magenta and just kind of trying to make sure that that feels a little more floral through there. Hmm, fun. What is fun in watercolor and we will do some of as we come in, especially into January, and we'll start pulling more over here, is the idea that we practice little skills so that when we want to do a big skill like a painting, I'm going to add a little more yellow here. I'm trying to make sure that my greens are not single dimension. And I'm painting the detail of leaves without painting the detail by making a couple shapes clear as a leaf. And then by obscuring others, your brain will start to, believe it or not, fill in the spaces. Is everything okay? Okay. For some reason I thought I heard you. So weird. Say that there was something wrong with the stream. I'm hallucinating it. Right? And come here and like See how you create that sense of structure of something woody and plant-like. And if I were to come and add a little brown to the bottom of that, that would be very interesting. And then as that dried and bloomed through, all kinds of fascinating stuff happens. So it's not just even this first moment when you're putting paint down on your surface, right? And you're trying to find just the expression, a little doodling sketch of leaves, right? Oh, this is the leaves. I'm doodling the leaves. If you were to do that. But over the next 20 minutes, as this continues to spread out and become more interesting, it's amazing at how things you thought were completely messed up are actually just fine. Adding a little bit of dark to bloom through my greens so they're a little more fascinating. I even come and add a few little dark ones here just to know that I have that. Now, clean water or cleanish. Very carefully, I am going to paint around my snowman's head. I do not want any of my water, my invisible paint. I do not want any of my water on my eyes, my coal bits for the mouth, or the carrot. Not even any. I do not want it to go over the hat. I only want it to be where the white paper is. Now, my trick is some stuff I won't even paint carefully around because I don't need it to go that far on the snowman's head. Same color of the snow. You can kind of see how that just creates just the finest little shading. Damp brush, clean water, right? Little bit sucked out on a paper towel to hoover and smudge. You'll actually, it's very intuitive. It comes in quicker than you think. Right? So you don't have to feel worried or stressed about it. A little bit of my yellow and green together again. So this time I'm going to try some of my orange. I think it might be more interesting than my brown. There we go. It is. We're getting to a little green gold here is what we're looking for. I'm going to come here and make a wiggled leaf shape. What is a wiggled leaf shape? Well, what I find is that our sense of plants or what something is sometimes is the object itself and sometimes it's contextual, right? So like because of everything else around it, you see a little green line, your brain goes, that's probably a leaf, right? And because leaves do dry and fold and have so many different shapes, a little dot like that is as likely to be a leaf as this. Sometimes leaves have little spear shapes and sometimes, sword shapes, all of little silver dollar shapes. They do change up, but there's so much variance, isn't there? Oh, that is looking really beautiful. How are you guys doing today? I hope you're well. I hope you're okay. I hope you're safe. I think about you guys all the time. Our show streams in, I think, 250 countries that we're actively watched in. And I think about you guys all the time. I pay attention to global events to know what's happening in your world. And I think about your weather. And I just want you to know that even if I'm not actively talking about everything that's happening, know that I'm thinking about you. And the only reason that I am not talking about it is that people are so unpredictable. And I just don't want to bring anything extra into any artist's life that's going through a hard time and or say something that doesn't help you in what you need. And so I just want you to know I think about you guys all the time. Breathe in, breathe out.
Ready for your next step?
Yes, I'm going to pick up my brush. Where to put it? I'm going to get my Kolinsky. I did not use an actual sable, but I'm going to still use this one because I like it. All right, I'm going to get into my yellow and pull it over here just a little bit because I just want some more clarity on that yellow. Do that thing where I wet it down again because now we're going to put the yellow light color where we wanted it in the first place, right? Which was on this flower and that other flower. That first color really needed to be almost a baby ducky yellow, and that's why I was like really wanting to make sure that I got that correct. And also showed you how easy it was to change my mind on a watercolor. I think sometimes these little fresh expressions of joy and wonder don't always, like if I'm not teaching this painting, it goes very quickly, right? So sometimes when you watch a watercolorist paint and work, it's a little challenging because you're like, dude, like that went fast. But teaching it is not as fast. All right. I'm putting a little bit of my quinacridone into my orange here. Now I'm going to wet that down a good bit so that I have a very light wash of it. I think I've made my sweater a little bulkier now, my little scarf. And that's okay. Now rinse out, soak up some color so it's dimensional, and then come back into the dark part of it. Paint that second twist. And bring a little bit of my red there, a little touch. I got a little heavy with my red there. Decided I'm okay with that. Because I still have that general gist of the scarf I was going for, so I'm like, it's okay. All right, let's come back down here, call it a new step. I'm going to get my two blues together, my ultramarine blue and my phthalo blue. And I'm going to do the fun work of negative space painting, which will be creating the flowers that we see here. And this one is always, I'm going to let you know right now, negative space is challenging for me. Some people just, they're great. And what do I mean by that? So there's the subject, the leaf. But around the leaf is all this other space. And so artists ask themselves, how important is that space? And they said, fairly important, actually. And so they started thinking about the spaces between the objects. And then some other artists went, but what if we were to paint those objects by only painting the space between them? And all the other artists said, why would we do that? That sounds really hard. And the good and clever artist said, well, we think that it will be pretty. As I come back here, I might go a little darker and maybe paint even some of these with this darker blue. Can you see how I'm making these irregular shapes? How well I pull this off will be very much about I don't know if I should have put that there, but I felt like it, so I did. I wanted another bit of blue over here more than what I had. That will happen. Sometimes you will want something more than what you have. I'm wetting this area. And I'm going to do an interesting thing where I pull the water back. And that kind of reveals a little bit of the snowman in a diffused effect over there. Why did I do that? I felt like it in that moment. Rinse out, new step. And take a little bit of my gray. We're almost done, guys. A little bit of my gray. And I'm just going to come across the hat under the head just to make a glaze. A glaze is a transparent light color that goes across something that kind of shows what's underneath. The number one thing that you as a beginner can start doing to make your artwork look better is don't forget the shadows. That's just the first thing. Yeah, I'm going to take some here and go. A little bit of shadow there. Why? Because we can. So sometimes when you're painting a loose little snowman like this, it is at once both easy and hard. Get a lot more yellow on my brush. Come around the edges of my flower. Kind of pulling some up. Little marks like the shadows and folds. Oh, I got a little fancy there. That'll happen to me on occasion. I get a little fancy. And a little bit of my orange and quinacridone again. Oh, actually, I'm wrong. Rinse out. It was quinacridone and a little bit of ultramarine blue.
Give a little lining there.
Putting a little bit of this color and then Just short little marks near the center and longer ones going out. It's nice, and it also helps us, you know, see the shape of the flower. I'm going to add a little pink to that petal. Adds a little dimensionality to those little flower suckers, doesn't it? Now I'm going to take a little bit of my gray. A little bit more of my gray. Sometimes this brush, the point will get me on a little occasion. It comes up and kind of leaves a little unexpected mark. There we go. That's looking pretty good, isn't it? We're so almost done, and it's so cute. So cute. Rinsey, rinsey, rinse. We're not done. Rinsey, rinsey, rinse, but we're almost done. Rinsey, rinsey, rinse. Rinsey, rinsey, rinse. We're almost done. And then I'm going to come in here and add some shadows. It's nice. So nice. Gonna just come here and just flicking up and making, notice that little mark there, and then I flick. Why am I doing that? So what that does, this little mark here, implies a leaf or bug or some element of nature that our eyes are barely catching, but that our mind really understands is there. I'm going to go ahead and do a few little snow moments there. Snow moments! With a little bit of yellow and green, as you do, as you do, as you do. I'm going to draw kind of like a little leaf here with some paint. And then when I come back with a rinsed brush and a little yellow, we'll blend on the canvas. I'm on an angle, I'm going to suck some of that up. Sketching out a little loose leaf there. A little thick on that center line. I'd want to thin it. If I was to do it again, I would want to thin it. Creating just different dimensionality. Little yellow gold there. Kind of glaze it over the leaves you sort of drew. And I will sometimes touch this out on my brush a couple places so that it blooms and bleeds out. Mushing, mushing, blending, going. Being joyful. Come right here in the center. Now I'm going to come up into the sketch a good bit. The reason I'm going to come in is so that it's easier on the framer. You can use a pencil too, but I just like to use the paint sometimes. I want to kind of have a little splatter on my name. Why? I don't know. Felt like it. There you go. A little Sherpa splatter. And so when that all dries, that'll be super duper cute. Now you can do these flowers, these little snowmen. I've got, if you thought this was fun, I did a kids one with just a green scarf and a hat, no flowers, kids paint. So that was a little more line and wash. And I've got more continuing. I'm like, I've got to use up all my paint today. So I'll do some more designs for us to do coming up over the holiday and into the new year. I'm also going to be adding some oil pastel because some of you guys are really interested. I just got to find my technique page and get it put out there as a thumbnail because I did a great technique page. And I feel like if I introduce you guys to those techniques, then you're going to be like, ah, I got it. Plus, it'd probably be very good for crayons and even kids' oil pastels. So I think these techniques and information will be good generally. Laura Rower says, John and gentlemen, have you update on your move to Ireland? We do, and we're waiting to do the video. It is a tale. It is a twisted tale.
It is such an epic tale, and it's not over yet.
Yeah, because it's kind of the Schrodinger Scott of immigration. We are both at once
April,
immigrated and not immigrated.
April, email support@theartsherpa.com. Yeah. I'm not sure what happened there. We'll find out.
April, if you couldn't, email us. And like, if you were there in the free trial and that was your week, we'll just send you the link to the next Zoom. Listen, This is what I want you guys to know about patroning me. You guys are supporting me. I really appreciate it. If you try to do something and then like it doesn't work and it was like a limited time thing and we have an ability to just like let you try again later, we're gonna do that. Like if there's a way, like we're not gonna make you miss half a class, any of that. I know right now, so like finances are crazy and stuff is crazy. So if you have the ability to help me out and come cheer Zoom class, support in any way, even if it's just being a body in the room, I am grateful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fully aware of the world we live in. So I really, really appreciate you guys. Want to see this thing get untaped?
I do. I think it'd be great.
Yeah. So, if you, I'm going to leave the art coaching level, which is the $25 a month level. It's the Zoom level, and the watch all the past video levels on a free week trial over on Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't like Patreon and you have a feeling about it, but you'd like to try our patronage for a week and you wrote us an email, we would figure out a way to manually do that. I don't mind. I'm on your team. So on your team. Let's peel. I will peel it off the opposite direction that I put it down. Sometimes it helps with the removal. The paper being dry really helps with the removal. Do not pull your tape before your paper has dried enough, because if it's wet under there, it is going to lift up with the tape, even painter's tape. Mine isn't. And remember, there are 3 states of dry. There's dry, dry, wet, wet, and that weird cool to the touch. It's a state of wet where you still get some softening, but it doesn't wander everywhere. And you can see even just in the time we've done this. So these are similar and a little different, but they're the same. And that's how yours should be. Similar, but different. Maybe your flower will be bigger right here. Maybe you'll have little birds coming in. Maybe your hat will be red. Maybe your splattles will be different. Or your snowflowers covered will be look different. Doesn't matter. What matters is that you learned how to do these little dots and these little weird shapes, and you figured out how to paint this cool effect on the inside of the hat. And you don't even have to have succeeded at it. If you kind of got the concept as an artist, you're winning. Artists don't make this the win. We make the inside the win. Don't you like that? I like that. Well, we do actually make this the win, but we shouldn't. We should knock it off. So know that what the win is if you're starting to understand the concepts and techniques. If every time you paint with me, terms feel less weird and less foreign. If you find you have more and more successes, I'd love to give you the personal challenge where you will look at your painting. And in fact, this is your homework on your watercolor to have ready for next time, which is find 2 things you think you did okay. Not the 35 things that you're sure you did wrong. The 2 things you thought you did right that you could do again, because those belong to you. Those, if you decide to take any other class, those 2 skills you learn with me, those belong to you. Carry those with you. That's why I push the skill, because that's what you get to keep. Paintings come and go, but the skills stay with you. So if you got 2, no matter how this worked out, and he's going to throw this in my face later when I'm complaining about a painting. Did you learn 2 skills? What'd you get right? But it's a true story. So find 2 things you did right. Focus on those, because that's what builds artists, not focusing on every mistake you ever made. Man, in fact, you have to be a really good artist with a lot of experience to start filtering through your errors in a healthy and effective way. Let me tell you, that's some emotional maturity that we're all working on. All right, guys, I so appreciate you. You are amazing. I am thinking about you. The stuff I'm not talking about now, I'm not talking about people are being intense about, but my heart is with you, and your children and your families, and I love you, and I hope you're okay in your life. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. We have a class Thursday, so I want to see you at an easel. What?
At Thursday? Okay. Thursday. Okay.
At an easel. We're going to do kids running in snow. It's faces. Teeny tiny faces. I bet our kids work right. Okay. You guys be good to yourself. Be good to each other. And I'll see you at an easel really soon. Bye-bye.